Now, I'll draw, basically the shape of the universe is not a sphere, and it's a little bit expanded. It's kind of like a swollen Smartie is probably the best way to explain it. So we'll take that sort of like swollen Smartie and we'll just pull it out a bit, because all the layers of reality are superimposed upon one another. When we talk about the sixth dimension, you don't leave here to go to somewhere else to get there. It's right here with us in the same room. When we talk about the seventh, eighth or ninth dimension, same goes. It's all here in the room with us. It's just another frequency. Your atoms need to oscillate and spin at a different rate, a different frequency. And people who levitate, for example, how can they do that? There's been many reports of people walking through walls. Gee, how do they do that? And I know that sounds a bit mad for conventional train of thought, but that's all very possible if you know how to control your being, your body, and alter its vibrational state to get your own atoms to spin at a different rate. Therefore you can then gel in and out of this reality. The military works with cloaking devices which makes things invisible, and that's quite well known. It's no mystery. That's how they do it. But they use technology to do that. Okay, so the basic structure is up here, and I'm drawing it visually. So as you know, these are all superimposed upon one another. This is the best way to present it visually for you. And we know, it being a waveform universe, it's basically you have polarity. So you have, cycles. You can say that's a positive and negative cycle. That's the way we're used to looking at things. Okay, up here we have the realm outside of polarity, because you've got your two sides of polarity. So here, I suppose we could say that to be negative and that to be positive, if you like. It doesn't matter. We can call that, and you can call that the dark, and you can call that the light. Okay, that's just common terms that we use for two different expressions of energy. Outside of polarity here, it's kind of sitting at the top, is what we call the Christ. Now that's not a religious term. What I'm sharing with you here today, that word is not a religious term. Okay? A religion has utilised that term for its own purposes, but the information and knowledge I'm sharing with you here today sits outside all sciences, all religions, all politics. This is what lies, this is the truth that lies behind all of it. Okay? The word Christ means the golden light. It means Christos in ancient Greek words. It means the energy, the frequency, which is the frequency of balance between the two. The reason they called people like myself in ancient times Akhenaten, or Jesus, or Buddhi, or Muhammad, or Abraham, any of the enlightened beings were called such because we had the golden halo around us. It was glowing, and the people could see that visually with their own eyes, because the planet was in a different frequency back then, and they were able to see these things, and therefore they called these people the golden ones, or the anointed ones. That's what it represents, and that's where the word Christ comes from, Christos. So it's a bit sad when there's other modes or religions out there that are attacking that word specifically, because their own prophets resonate at that frequency, that light spectrum as well, and that needs to be understood, that does not belong to any particular being. The one we know as Jesus, whose real name is Lord Sananda out in the cosmos, that's a higher aspect of his being, is one, just but one being of the Christed energy. Just one. There's many. And all of us people here, our journey here to go into what we call the golden age, is to become one of those beings and to operate under that auspice, under that energy. That's what this is all about. And because the golden light is outside of polarity, it's a balanced state of being. The beings in the Christed energy really understand how to utilise the two powers, the two energies, what we refer to as the dark and the light, to achieve what one needs to achieve in a very balanced and respectful manner to all life. So it's just another word, so we can write that there for the golden light. Okay? Now this universe that I've drawn here is basically what we call God. That's what the religions refer to as a supreme being. Everything that exists has a certain level of consciousness. Right down to this texter has a certain level of consciousness, otherwise it would not exist. There needs to be intent to come in to arrange all what we refer to, I'll get into later, the Platonic solids in the correct manner for this to exist and hold the form. A tree, for example, birds, animals, they all have consciousness. It's all different levels of consciousness. They are all living creatures. This planet is a living being. Therefore our universe is a living being, and that's what we refer to as God, the Supreme Being, and we are all inside of that and all part of that. Let's say you go to the 12th dimension, for example. The Council of Nine in the 12th dimension are 9 beings which are an extension. You get the main body of Christ, and it's broken itself up into 9 different components. And it's like us as beings have different egos, for example. We have different egos that make up the whole of the expression of the being. So does God. God has broken itself up into different components, and each being from 1 to 9 performs a different function or represents a different function. One might carry wisdom, and the other one might be the expression of learning how to function with authority, and the other one might be the teaching of the sciences. And it's all broken up, and each one has its own responsibility. And this Council of 9 exists on every dimensional spectrum, each one. The Council of 9 sits there, and it's flanked either side by 2 other councils, which I will get to in just a moment. And so, for example, here you've got 9 beings, here you've got another 9 beings. While these ones are here down in this dimensional level, these ones still exist, but these are a lower aspect. This picture here probably describes it pretty well. This is the picture of the I Am presence and brought to us by Saint Germain. And then you have the higher part of your aspect of your being, your God presence. And then you have an intermediate part of your being, and then you have a lower part of your being. It's all one being at the end of the day, but we have different components, and you have the same setup as well individually. Okay? So when I speak of the Council existing in every frequency spectrum, yes, they're all one, but they're different components, that's all. It's just broken down. So you've got each being is specialising in each different frequency spectrum, because if you're only one entity, then you can't be here and there at the same time. You've got to break yourself up into 2 or 3 or 4 so you can occupy those different frequencies at the same time and function properly and effectively. Okay?